No.
We usually just give everybody like a minute to get here, and then I will sort of kick us off.
Great.
I see the numbers are growing.
Yes. It's good.
That's exciting.
All right.
Hello, Alina. Rocco.
There we go.
All right.
Hello.
All right, we'll get started. Welcome, everyone. I'm Joanna Roach. I'm with Green Spa Network. Thank you all for joining us today. This is our 4th webinar, really with the intention of creating a community to share ideas and focus on our thoughts around what's happening in the world. And today, we've brought together 4 different folks from all over the world who will share their perspectives on what's happening and hopefully some ideas and suggestions and ways in which we can work together to bring everyone together. So I'm going to kick it off by starting with you, Jean-Guy. And why don't you introduce yourself and talk about what country you're from, and then we'll hand off to Bonnie and then Jane and then Noel. So that's how we'll start.
I
So
was
welcome.
waiting. Thank you so much. I was waiting for ladies first, but maybe it's because it's late here in Brussels. Thank you so very much. So my name is Jean-Guy de Gabriac. I'm the founder of a consulting company, also specialized in education, called Tip Touch International. We're celebrating our 16 years in business in April. So it's a big date for us. And I'm also the founder of the World Wellness Weekend, which is preparing its 4th annual edition on September 19 and 20. That was my very short introduction.
Okay. All right. Bonnie, let's jump to you.
I'm Bonnie Baker. I'm happy to be here with everybody. I'm calling in from Mexico. I'm the founder of a spa consultancy called Satteva, also a training and distribution company. I've served on the board of Green Spa Network and as the chair of the Initiative for Sustainability in the Global Wellness Institute. And I'm currently the ambassador for World Wellness Weekend in Mexico, happily working with Jean-Guy. And as an anthropologist, I come to the wellness world kind of looking at it from a cultural and international perspective.
Great. Jane, let's jump to you.
Hi, I'm Jane Kitchen. I'm in London. Well, I'm actually just outside of London. And I am here, I guess, representing, I've been for about 5 years writing for Spa Business Magazine. I'm the editor of the annual Spa Business Handbook. And I also have my own communications firm working within the spa and wellness industry.
Great. Thank you. Noel.
Hello, everybody. I'm calling in from Vancouver, Canada. I founded Noel Asmar Uniforms and have pedicurebowls.com and a retail division, Asmar Equestrian. So I'm excited to share perspectives from multiple industries on the Canadian side of the border.
Okay. Welcome. Welcome. So let's, we're going to circle back around, but let's start with what is happening in your country. What is the level of shutdown and what are the challenges that you're currently facing? So we'll sort of reverse the order. Noel, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So Canada, currently we're at about 17,800 confirmed coronavirus cases, and unfortunately we've had 374 deaths. We're at an interesting phase. I'd say our country has been really started to shut down about 3 weeks ago. And most companies that have done layoffs and furloughs, et cetera, are till now talking about being closed until June. So interesting when we talk about shutdowns, corporately, you'll see most of the companies that are not deemed the essential services are actually shut down and most people are working from home. Yeah, it's, we're all at different stages. You know, we do business in 64 countries, and so our suppliers and our clients are all in different stages of this. So, yeah.
And Noel, are you taking orders? Do you have like a skeleton crew? How is that working for you?
We had, I'll share, intimately, it's been a really challenging period for us. So most of our biggest business is uniforms for spas and hotels. Of course, we know that we are all shut down together. So we did lay off about a third of our staff, March 20th, hardest day of my life, and a real reality check in, how this is going to affect our entire community, personally and professionally. We are grateful that all of our distribution and our manufacturing is still moving along. We are actually uninterrupted there. So we are taking orders. We're seeing most of it online. Pedicurebowls.com, we're seeing that. It's interesting. I'll share what I see as trends that are going to start moving. And in equestrian, we actually see this industry doing very well. Our online site's doing very well, but this is athletics, this is sports, this is a passion. You can run with great social distancing. And so you can see that depending on the industry, it does impact the effects right now of COVID.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Bonnie, what about you? What's happening in Mexico?
So currently, as of this morning, Mexico is in a level 3 shutdown, level 3. I checked in on the stats. We've got 2,439 confirmed cases, plus a few more that are adding in there. 5,295 suspected cases and 125 confirmed deaths due to this particular situation. It's an interesting place to be as an expat, living in kind of two worlds here in Mexico, because you've got the kind of approach to the situation from the first world phenomenon, where I always find it a little interesting that, in the US, one of the biggest parts of this crisis is the lack of toilet paper available. And I said, that's a very first world kind of crisis, because here in the communities, they kind of deal with some of these survival things on a regular basis, and it's a very different approach. How do you do a shutdown when people are really living hand to mouth in this type of thing? So in terms of our industry, our hotel industry, we are closed. The indications right now are until the end of this month, but I suspect it's going to be quite a bit longer as we're kind of ramping up the numbers and things. So we'll see how that goes over the next few months. I think there are a couple of other people here on the call from Mexico, so maybe they can chime in. But it is a different approach when you look at it from being in communities that are living very tight knit, where you can't really do a lot of separation because they're so close together, and some of the houses are not really that separate. So isolation takes on a bit of a different context.
Got it. Interesting. Jane?
I literally just had to pull up the stats because I didn't have them at my fingertips, but I'm just looking. It looks like we have 55,000 confirmed cases and just over 6,000 deaths in the UK. And I think probably the biggest news here is that our Prime Minister is not only has it, but admitted to hospital and now has been taken to intensive care as of last night. So that, I think, makes everything hit home a little bit more. There's definitely, I feel like there's a difference today in terms of, like I said, I'm just outside of London, so we're a bit in the countryside, and we can walk, quite easily in fields and things, but there are a lot of people out. Everybody's been keeping their distance, but I can feel today it's like everybody's really keeping their distance, and I think that's just this sense of, this guy who's, I don't know, kind of in some senses, for a while made it seem like it wasn't very serious, and all of a sudden now he's in intensive care, and he's only 55. He's got a baby on the way. So I think that really hits home for people. Everything is shut down here. We have very specific, you can go to get groceries. You are so far still allowed to exercise once a day. They keep threatening to take that away. And I think especially a problem in places like London, where you have so many people on top of each other and everybody home all of a sudden and trying to exercise at the same time. I can feel it out here. There are so many more people walking in the places that I normally walk than there normally are, because it's the only thing that anybody can do. So, for now we have that right still to exercise, but it has definitely been threatened to be taken away if people don't behave. And, just talking to my friends in Spain and Italy, it seems like there's you can go outside kind of only to go to the store, not to exercise. If you have a dog, maybe you can walk right outside of your house, but that's it. So I'm sort of waiting and hoping that doesn't come here, because for me at least, and I think for a lot of people, that's the difference between making it through this and kind of feeling like everything's going to be okay, and really kind of losing your sanity if you can do nothing but be in your house.
Right. Jean-Guy.
It's been crazy because in January, looking at the people in Wuhan being locked down, you could kind of understand why the Chinese government would impose that and people would follow. Never would we have thought that it would knock on Italy first, France second, now Spain even hardest. I looked at the stats also. Apparently 79,000 people are infected in France. 10,000 have already died. So out of the 79,000 who died in the world, 1 out of 8 died on French soil. It's hitting every gender, apparently more men than women. There seems to be a difficulty for French people to obey laws. This is why probably the government never said it would be a 45-day lockdown. That's what I heard from friends close to the government agencies. Right away they said, nothing's going to happen until mid-April or end of April, so stay put and get ready. But the government on TV, the president and then the prime minister only said 2 weeks, and then it keeps being pushed back. So it's like baby steps, so that people would accept that. Everything is closed except, of course, for groceries and hospitals and clinics. It is forbidden for people to do anything, especially for spas. They've been hit very, very hard. Thank God in France we have I would say a universal care system. We have a social security system that is really taking care of people. We have an economy, secretary of economy that is extremely active. He announced 2 days ago that the projected recession in France will be as hard as France just after Second World War. This will be the hardest number of recession that we will see since 1945. So it's really it's scary, but the morale is still there. French people are looking forward to reopening. We're thinking of strategies, some of them that I will share later on. I'm immediately, when I heard lockdown, I knew that with my family, we would be safe because we have a comfortable apartment. We've been reunited with our daughter, who's supposed to study in Rotterdam. So it's like the family's back again. We have group hugs. We have Snowy with us. The dog that you see sometimes on my post, the Westie. So it's bringing a lot of cheer, definitely. But it's just amazing that time. And I thought immediately of the people who are locked up with an abusive spouse, or the families that are 4 or 5 or 6 living in a very small apartment. This is really, really tough on them. So far, I have to say I've had it pretty easy. Although all of my business is stopped, all of the trainings that were scheduled have been either canceled or postponed. So the revenue is 0 right now. So I'm rethinking of rebooting, resetting, restarting, different things.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. What do you all think the impact of this will be? I think I'd like to take that question in 2 parts, both short term, like say in the next 3-6 months, and then like a year or 2 out. What do you think the impact will be on the industry? So why don't we start with you, Jane?
I think globally, I mean, I don't know if you mean to answer that globally or in the UK. And maybe I'll just, as a representative of somebody who's here in the UK, think of it in those terms. 3 months, I mean, everything will still be closed. We have, similar to in France, we have pretty good government support in terms of what, the government is going to come in and they'll pay for furlough salaries for at least 3 months. I hear that and it's not anything that's been announced, but there's a sense that they will probably continue that another 3 months beyond that. There's definitely help for companies. I'm a self-employed person, and even that they've agreed to pay 80% of what your normal wages are based on your tax records from the past few years. So I feel like there's at least this sense here of, okay, right, we're all kind of sitting tight and trying to get through it and figure it out, but there's some kind of social net financially that will help people. It's not come yet, so I think anybody who's really living paycheck to paycheck, that's really tricky. But there is something coming, and so I think that's at least good. A year out, I'm honestly not sure we're going to be out from under this, but if we are, I mean, what I sort of figure that I don't know, you've heard people talk about this sense of like gradually opening the taps or the faucet, to kind of like maybe we start coming out from this by letting certain people resume more normal life. Maybe we let kids go back to school, but with like really increased hand sanitizing and things like that. Maybe restaurants are open, but the tables have to be really far apart. Maybe people can go out, but they have like a wristband that says they have immunity or something. And there's certainly talk about the sense of travel between borders and between countries really probably being different for quite a while, whether that's like you can't travel if you don't have the immunity, or you have to be into a voluntary 14-day thing. So I think one thing that will come of that for our industry, I sort of see that the things that will slowly start to open up will be more local. And the UK spa industry is actually quite good at, it's something that's very much entrenched in people's, going to have a spa day at a nice spa. There's a lot of international travel as well, of course, but there is a really good local economy for that. And I think those local people will become even more, when things do start to open up, that's what you'll see, is not this reliance on people traveling from all over the world, but maybe just some local things where, people who live nearby or at least in the same country can come.
So maybe some more regionalized or even smaller than that town, village centric services. That's interesting. I know I tried to mail a package to London a couple days ago and I couldn't ship anything to London. No, you can't send anything out of the country right now, which I was shocked by.
Yeah.
Right? No mail. Wow. Okay. So Bonnie, why don't we go to you? So what do you think it's going to look like in 3 to 6 months and then a year or two beyond now? Mm-hmm. And I had a hard time sending you something before this all started. You're never
Mexico's always been a little bit difficult. Well, I want to preface by saying, I agree with the perspectives that Jane has brought in, and I think a lot of us probably share that. If we look at this in terms of our industry and how it has been, we can look at the 3 months to 6 month time frame and try to create strategies that are going to get us through. But I think that also if we don't look a little bit beyond what those material kind of responses or strategies are, then we're missing an opportunity here that's really, that really is something that is new for us. And I think that we need to come at this a little bit humble in our beliefs and how we can make this wellness industry relevant now in a time when wellness is being redefined on so many levels. So I look at it a little bit in terms of this is a cosmic gift, but it's also a major cosmic spanking, like where Mother Earth just, sent us to our room and said, go to your room without dinner, stay in your homes and think about how you're treating your sister and brother. And, don't come out until you understand it. And we have the decision to make whether we're going to understand it and we're going to alter our methods and how we relate to each other, or whether we're going to try to go back and find a way to go back to where we were, which I just don't think that that's relevant anymore. And us being in the wellness industry, one of the biggest things that I think we've been lacking in for so long is really truly understanding what this package, what this body is all about, and especially in context with the earth body. And so, in GSN, that's kind of our mantra, and we talk about that all the time. But this is really the moment to do that, and it's in our hands. And there's not going to be some big, cosmic savior that's going to come through and all of a sudden right all this situation. It's up to us, and it really is about how we want to show up in the next few months, the next few weeks together, how we want to create a social fabric of working together, a new type of economy, a new way of respecting our financial commitments to each other that puts people first. Because like Rocco said to me this morning in Chablais, there's no people left. What's the importance of having a beautiful property or a company that has beautiful items and products if there's not people to serve? So that, I think, is kind of the context for our ongoing conversation in the future. Do I want to talk about, maybe what kind of strategies we're looking at? Is travel going to come back online? Yes, we can go to that level, but I think, the important thing is to start off in that kind of humility of, we don't know the whole story. Maybe we don't even know the whole story of this virus and really where it's coming from, how it affects our biology, how the pandemic, is the pandemic more about the virus or about the fear associated with the virus? I heard something just before I close out. I heard something very interesting. Louis Pasteur, as you know, who created the antibiotics, he said on his deathbed, it's not about microorganisms, it's about our internal state. The microbe is nothing, the terrain is everything. So if that doesn't put in context the wellness industry about how we in our well-being and internal well-being can come confronting these external aggressors, then I don't know what else we're really here for. That was from Charles Eisenstein, by the way.
Yes. Oh, I read that article. Yes, that was an excellent article.
Yeah.
Jean-Guy, let's jump to you, and then we'll go to Noel. Where do you see us in 3 to 6 months, or in a year or two from now?
It's very hard to make any projection. Last week, I was fortunate to. I was supposed to be in London for the World Spa and Wellness Convention. You were supposed to be there, hosting a panel, and we had to cancel everything because of the situation. So we decided to have an online convention, and most of the panelists all shared the same thing. No one has a clue. No one knows. However, I totally agree with Jane, with Bonnie. We have to make scenarios. We have to be ready. One thing that is scary is that when I was preparing this online convention, I spoke with Thierry Malray, who is the founder of the monthly barometer and who has spoken several times at the Global Wellness Summit. And he said, Jean-Guy, look at the numbers today and look at the numbers when this will be aired, because he was not able to be live during the convention, so we recorded the week before. There were 20,000 deaths worldwide. There are 79 today. He said, by the time you air this, probably there will be 40 or 55. So it is very scary. It is very rapid, the way it's growing. However, I believe, how many deaths because of obesity in the US alone every year? 300,000. How many deaths every year because of non-communicable diseases? Something like 35 million people dying prematurely because of poor lifestyle choices, because of, unfortunately, not finding ways to respond to stress. And unfortunately, their body presents, strokes, heart attacks, diabetes type 2, respiratory diseases, cancer. 35 million dying because of NCDs is the equivalent of one person dying every 0.9 seconds. And now the whole world, half of humanity, is in lockdown because, and it's very scary, unfortunately, 79,000 people died. So I'm totally in congruence with let's make our industry relevant. Let's make sure we are not going to be the byproduct of arbitrage in budget, saying I'm scared for my job, I'm scared for my revenue, I still need to feed my family. I'll think later for that $60 or $90 massage, or $150 massage in a top place, and maybe people will will decide to use that money differently, it is up to us to definitely connect with something that we have mentioned already a year ago, the Sustainable Development Goals. Out of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that the United Nations has voted on years ago, the number one is helping people have a decent wage so that the poverty level rises and more people can have decent ways of feeding their children and educating their children. The second one is making sure that if you have enough in your fridge, you can also share with someone who doesn't in your district, in your city, and there are lots of kitchen soups going on. So it's helping to end hunger. But the number three is good health and well-being for all. This is when already last year we should hone that as an industry. Spa, salons, fitness clubs, yoga studios, Pilates studios, the list goes on. Wellness-related businesses should be relevant for that. So are we going to massage people right away when everything opens? Maybe not. Should we look at mental health, hosting webinars and paid webinars? We were thinking of entering the digital age a few years ago. Everything is turning digital now. All the personal trainers in fitness clubs, they're not paid anymore. So they're all offering their services online. I've seen an esthetician in the UK that is now encouraging other estheticians to give online consultations, asking their clients to come closer to the camera and show the fine lines under the eyes and everything, so that a consultation can be made and products can be shipped. So there's a lot happening. When I was certified and I passed my baccalaureate, it's like 12th grade in France. In 1987, I was taught by then, at that time, by my economic teacher that long-term was 5 years. And that's a 5-year plan for a country like Russia or for any state. 5 years is long-term. Midterm is anywhere between 2 and 5 years. And short-term is between 6 months and 2 years. Right now, short-term is tomorrow. Midterm is next week. Long-term is?
We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know. So making plans, making scenarios, keeping sharp, and not being just by ourselves, but just like you're doing, Joanna, and thank you for organizing this webinar and webinars, weekly webinars, sticking together and exchanging ideas and sharing best practices. And there's lots more coming with the next questions.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thanks, Jean-Guy. Noel, your thoughts on this?
I think spa and hotels, I mean, we need to just be prepared. This isn't going to be even 3 months from now, if we come back out of furlough, it's going to be a lot longer than that. And, you know, if we were to think about really what the timeline could potentially be, we have to be thinking very long term, 12 to 18 months before we could start to see pre-COVID numbers coming back. So just to piggyback on something you said, Bonnie, is why did we all get into this industry? The wellness is the card that unites all of us. And if we look at this pandemic, where has it hit the world in the heart? Our greatest challenge as nations has been our medical system. So, you know, I think we could be thinking about what is the role of spa in the medical industry today. And I remember when we started our business in 2002, spas at that time weren't even yet a vital component of the 4- and 5-star hotel. They were starting to be. Today they certainly are, and it's widely accepted and expected that if you go to a 5-star property, you'll find a spa. But we have very unique skill sets in the world of spa and in the world of wellness, both, I think, emotional wellness, physiological wellness, and spiritual wellness. That's very rare. That's a very interesting skill set. Right now they're looking, you know, different nations are looking at bringing retirees, you know, retired nurses and doctors to come out and hit the front lines because they're short-staffed. I think there is an opportunity for our industry to be looking a little bit closer at that. And while we are down for the next 6 to 12, maybe 18 months, what could we be doing today that could have a significant impact on the wellness of our nations, on the wellness of the world? This is a much bigger story than our industry and ourselves. And that is what's important today. Our governments aren't hit. The toll that the financial, economic impact of this virus on our governments, it could have been 1/100th of that cost had we put a fraction of that funding into our medical system.
Mm-hmm.
And if we had a stable, very well enabled, quick to react medical system, the threat wouldn't have been as great economically worldwide as it is today. So our issue is our medical system. How can we help? And this is, I think, an opportunity to help. The other thing I want to just quick thought on this timeline, and that's what it is. We don't know the timeline. It's an unknown moving target, and it varies by country, and our industry is global. So what we're seeing is, if we haven't had a strong e-commerce channel within our businesses before, that we need to do that now. And so I think another way we could offer some coaching internally in our industry is just how to do that well.
Mm-hmm.
This is a foreign part of really spa. Most spas, e-commerce isn't a strength for the spa industry. And in every industry, and we see this in our equestrian industry, we have retailers that carry our brand. They're not happy when we sell our brand. We all share the same frustrations, challenges, and opportunities right now in retail. But look at the retail industry, how profoundly impacted it's been with this. It's the first thing to shut down are the retail stores before hotels and spas did.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to learn from industries outside of our industry right now. So I think, well, this is really vital that our community is speaking. I think it's really vital we start bringing some outside industry experts that are facing and dealing with things a little bit different, just so we get that full perspective of what's going on in North America and in the world. And the other thing, I think we're going to become more nationalized. We are going to be forced to travel within our borders. We're going to be forced to trade within our borders. We are going to be forced to source within our borders. Those are opportunities for all of us in the spa industry. Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very interesting perspective. I think one of the things that I am worried about with this isolation that we're all sort of facing is that we are giving up quite a bit of our rights, right? We're giving up our right to assemble. We've given up quite a bit of our rights to privacy. And now if we go online and we're giving up our rights in other ways. And I think that this wellness piece of that is something that we really have to, as Bonnie said, really consider very carefully, and how that's going to impact us in terms of coming together in groups, and also in terms of what wellness has meant, which is high touch.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a couple of questions from folks that I want to ask. One of which is, do you think the spa industry is going to, or is ready to, and anybody can sort of jump in and answer this, to develop sort of hygiene standards? And what might that look like?
I can touch on this a little bit with pedicure bowls, given treatment specific types of services. Sure. Definitely there is an opportunity for more innovation there, and I think the standards will have to change. I've also been thinking about textiles in our industry, not put the uniforms aside, all shared textiles. So think about robes, all the things that we just washed in between services, and bedding and so forth. I do think this might get scrutinized a little bit more. And if we look at, hospital standards, they might change spa standards. So yes, I do think hygiene is going to be paramount. People want to know that. And the way that we communicate our hygiene standards, I think in spa, it's not the sexy side of what we do. Right. But we're going to find...
well, it's about to become so. People are going to want to know, how many times was this washed? Yes.
You're a GSN. You're a GSN, right? Yep. How do we do this sustainably? How do we develop? We have the opportunity to reset button with a carbon sensitive, you may not be carbon neutral, but a carbon sensitive approach. Right. Lots of opportunities. I think we have to.
Yes, you sort of have to think outside the box. Noel, while I have you, I have another question that's sort of specific to you, which is, are you planning to sort of shift into making masks? And will that be part of your offering?
We've already started sampling that, and it's not to hit the medical mask level right now. There's so many people out there, and it's it's gotten a little bit ugly. It's a gouging market, and we've decided we want really nothing to do with that. So we are doing masks and a few other protective wear pieces we feel that will be essential in spas. So reach out if you have a question. We're also looking at doing it in a kind way so it doesn't feel so medical, feel effective. I think your clients will also want an alternative too.
Great. I've also got a question about massage therapy. So someone's asking a question. Natasha from California is asking about big picture. I think I went out. Natasha from California is asking about how business will be as usual for massage, and the California Massage Therapy Council is starting to talk about what kinds of changes there might be in day-to-day operations, and things like there have been even some suggestions of having thermometers in the rooms. So I don't know if anybody wants to comment on that, maybe Jean-Guy or Bonnie.
Yeah, I'll take this one, Bonnie, if it's okay. I believe SOPs are going to change dramatically, whether reopening or for spas opening. I believe that for a lot of hotels that have closed, they will first reopen floor by floor. Then eventually their restaurants will open, and eventually the spas will open last. This gives us time to rethink of the complete SOPs. It's not just wearing gloves and massaging with gloves, possible. It's not just wearing masks. It's not just cleansing everything in front of the clients. There will definitely be different types of clients, some that have been directly impacted by COVID, having either being infected themselves and coming out of it. I know a few people in France who have splitting headaches, nausea, diarrhea, it's ugly, but they came through. So these will be extremely sensitive. Who's massaging me? And it's not just about diplomas that you can have on the wall, it's also who has been tested in the team and who has been tested recently. You see in the toilets of airports how often the toilets have been cleaned by the janitor. Is it something we're going to see more often in spas also, to say that every hour everything has been disinfected? Maybe for the high risk factor people who lost members of their family who were touched by the virus, maybe it will not be enough. Maybe it will be after every single person coming in. You have the mid-risk people, possibly that will not have been infected personally, but they will be very aware. And maybe they will prefer a shift in organic brands. They will be very conscious about what you offer. Maybe this will go as far as the amenities. So far, we had a jar with dried fruit, with almonds or nuts, and you just dip in, or you take a spoon and you take in your little plate. Are we going to go back to individual packages? This is definitely something. And as far as massage is a big passion. 19 years ago, I gave up a career in media and websites and cable and satellite television to open a massage institute in France and ran it for 3 years near the Champs-Élysées. So I'm passionate about this. I'm one of the judges of the World Championship of Massage. So I care immensely for those people. I believe it is time to really go back to our anatomy, physiology, all those charts, energy meridians, and learn how to master those crafts. Maybe the nice signature massages, the ones that feel nice, smell nice, will be replaced by strict lymph drainage to lymph to flush the lymph. TCM maybe will go back immensely because people will not be comfortable in removing their clothes. Maybe they will just slip in something that's extremely clean out of a sachet, and they will have their meridians touched on by someone who has gloves So gloves on, clean suits like you would have in the Thai Massage Institute. Maybe this is something that we will have, including more stretches. I remember that Massage Envy launched a few years ago the Stretto method or something like this as an add-on to any different massage. So this is definitely something that we will need. And as Bonnie, Noel said also, to be relevant, it's not just the physical massage, it's also massaging emotions, massaging the mind, the brain. There are many tools, many techniques that massage therapists can study or refresh their knowledge in or use if they already are a master in it. The art of breathing and massaging your own organs through pranayama, the way of learning how to do the fast napping, yoga for the face, yoga for the eyes. There are so many techniques that we could share, and maybe guests will want the hygiene level, and this is something they will take care at home, removing their hair, dyeing their own, removing the hairs, dyeing the hair. There's lots of things that they will do at home, but we need to make sure that people understand that we are there to boost their immune system in a very safe way, and this could be a big, big game changer. Last thing, if anyone looks at treatment menus right now, they are too long, there are too many things, and already a few months ago or a year ago, people were advocating for shorter massage treatment menus.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now is the time really to look at how many times you have given a treatment. Is it really profitable? And chances are 30% of all treatments offered in spas represent only 2% of the revenue. So there's definitely place for spring cleaning in that and focusing on result-driven services.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jean-Guy. Sure. So I'd love to go around to each of you one more time. So what is either the one piece of advice you have for folks right now, or the one thing you think it's most important for us to be doing as a community right now? So Bonnie, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, thanks. I want to just follow up a little bit on something that
Sure.
Jean-Guy was saying and kind of the last question. I think it's very, very important for us to, at this moment in time, be looking at the situation and how we go forward from this much broader perspective. So whereas we're looking for a way to respond, as I said before, the response that we have is so important, but there has to be a new perspective on that, a broadened perspective. So if we're going to come up with SOPs and, the new standards and protocols, that not only can contain some of the activities that we have, but it can also cause restriction, and it can cause fear around some of those things. So, how are we having this kind of double approach to going into the future and allowing things to still be, well managed, but not limiting in terms of a new type of response? I don't know if I'm making myself kind of that clear. We are defining now how we want to be. And so in this wellness world and how we go about massage and how we go about living on the earth together, I think there's a fundamental understanding of our own biology that we're still missing and that we're still looking to explore. So wellness professionals have this kind of obligation to explore these new areas, and certainly the non-tangible is part of that. Certainly we want to look at the hygiene and how we're cleaning and keeping our areas sterile, but what's the inner hygiene that we're also using in terms of our own inner monologue, our thoughts and our speech, is as important as keeping our external areas cleansed. So nature doesn't work in voids or vacuums, and the fact that we oftentimes don't even know enough about our biology, why this virus is coming up, why it's affecting some so intensely and others not, what does 5G play in this whole thing, and there's these different pieces of the equation that we're still not understanding. And so the lack of understanding that we might have in our own biology leaves a void or an opening for someone to come in and put a control on us. If we're not able to control ourselves, then the control will come. And so I think that might be part of this bigger equation, is what type of regulations, political decisions, and those things that are coming in, because we're maybe not as aware or in charge of our own, free management of our bodies and our businesses. So I just want to put that out there. In closing, I think that the bottom line for me is looking at this as an opportunity and as a new definition of how we want to be in the world and working together and incorporating the earth body as part of our own body. And so, we might want to talk about trends and what do we see in terms of trends and things. For me, the trend world is a bit tricky. But if I were to say, what are we looking towards, hopefully exploring in the future, it would be the quality that we as wellness professionals have for living and dying. This moment of transition, not only coming into the world, but also going out of the world, is an important one for us to keep in mind right now. Noel mentioned the medical community. So where does wellness show up in those frontline workers that are risking their lives every day? That's so important. And again, fully connecting with the planet as a living organism. And just to close out for me, I want to share very briefly a Hopi prophecy that I came across. This is the end of it. It's a bit longer than this, but it says, "Do not look outside yourself for leaders. The elders say we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, keep our eyes open and head above water. See who's in there with you and celebrate, for this is the time of great change. And this time in our history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment that we do, our spiritual growth and journey come to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves, banish the word struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. All that we do now should be done in a sacred manner and in celebration, for we are the ones we're waiting for." So if I keep that in mind, I can face what's coming. Thanks.
Thank you. Jane, let's go over to you.
So in terms of, I think we need to as we are in this moment, at least, is that communication is key. That doing things like this, that the Zoom calls, the staying in touch with our communities are huge. And then it seems like there are also lots of opportunities. I'm not sure who all is in the audience, but seems like there's lots of opportunity for companies, and for whether that's hospitality companies or skincare brands or whatever it might be, to do some kind of online something that's reaching out to your people who are paying attention to you and following you. I'm watching Six Senses seeing Anna Biersum up there doing these free sort of meditation sessions, and that everyone's looking for those kinds of things right now. And so there's an opportunity to kind of to help people, and also to kind of keep your brand in front of mind for them at this time. And I think that's probably important. And I guess just one other thing that I wanted to bring up, just as more a question than anything else. I was thinking about this article I read about, I'm not sure if you all have seen that, the Excel Center in London, where the professional beauty normally takes place, which is so massive for anybody who's ever been there, that's been turned into a makeshift hospital for all this. And there's this question of where the staffing comes from, because we're spread so thin as it is with the NHS. And there's some military personnel who have come through to build it and will help staff it. But one of the other groups that they said they're approaching are flight attendants from Virgin Atlantic and EasyJet and British Airways who are off work at the moment. And one of the reasons is and not to do any of the major stuff, but just to kind of help out. And one of the reasons is they have security clearance, but they also have generally like first aid training. And I read that and I thought, is there a role for people in the spa industry, those of us, not me, but those of us who are maybe therapists and have more of that knowledge of anatomy and the human body? Is there something that we can be doing to help out? And by the same token, in doing that, does that help sort of raise the profile of how much you have to know as a therapist in order to just be qualified?
Mm-hmm. It's a great perspective. Thank you, Jane. Noel.
Give me the question again.
Advice that you would share, or the impact you think you see in terms of how we will change.
Mhm. This is a little off kilter, but as a resource partner in our spa and wellness industry, sometimes we're always looking for ways to support our spas and hotels. And I think this has really changed the paradigm a little bit. I feel like right now I have so many clients, so many spa directors, hotel directors reaching out to me, and I'm reaching out to them. And I feel like we're collaborating at a whole other level. We're collaborating together to reimagine what business is going to look like when we open our doors. And we are becoming an integral part of the executive team. We are no longer a vendor. And I think this could be a paradigm shift for our industry that so badly needs to be one instead of vendors and
Yes, the other.
very important, more important than ever. This is a really critical moment to know who are your partners. We're partners, and there's going to be a lot of changes, and we're going to need each other to make exceptions for one another during this period. So use this time to brainstorm together and get on both sides of the fence. You'd be amazed how much input as a spa director you could potentially have on innovation and creation, and be a part of the solution today.
That's a really excellent point, Noel. Thank you. Thank you. Jean-Guy?
A few things quickly. I'm conscious of time wrapping up. I've seen a few questions pass by as we were talking.
Yes.
One is about the massage therapist.
Yes.
I'm convinced that there is a place for lifelong learning. This is definitely a time to go back to our charts, definitely a chance to go back to the physiology, the anatomy, the energy. Maybe there will be more demand for Reiki, for energy healing, for emotional healing, to mix with naturopathy, with aromatherapy. So we will go back to ancient remedies using state-of-the-art techniques today, and this is where we can fit to help people also deal with emotions, because when an emotion is not met, it will turn into a physical tension, and this is definitely something. As far as how can we care for our front staffers, that was another question. Please, if I may, I don't want to publicize something else, but there was a very good free one-on-one conversation that I had with a fantastic keynote speaker at iSpa, Dr. Brian Williams. He gave a 30-minute speech that was absolutely inspiring, vivid, on saying 3 C's: care, communicate, and count down. I highly encourage everyone to work with their teams, even if they're furloughed. And I know when you're furloughed, you're not supposed to work, but you're not forbidden to think and co-create the next reality in which you will be. So of course, spa managers and directors should keep in touch with all of their team. If they know, they should say. If they don't know, they should say they don't know, but that they still care. And it's time to reinvent maybe new treatments, new packages, new programs based on the true qualities. What does make your heart sing? What keeps your heart on fire? Why did you join this industry in the first place? And last thing I would like to say on how we can raise our profile to our industry. We have no clue what's going to happen in May and June. One thing I'm passionate about is the World Wellness Weekend taking place on September 19 and 20. Who knew that today was the World Health Day, created on April 7, 1948? People forget that. And today was a day special for nurses and for midwives. Who knew about this and who really celebrated this? I'm going to make a point with the ambassadors, with Bonnie, and with all the 40 ambassadors, country ambassadors, city ambassadors, to make sure that people know that in September, when we all reopen, we will be the standing ovation that we have been waiting for. We will be the ones making sure that the whole media and the public at large understand that spas and salons and fitness clubs and wellness-related businesses are not nice to have. They are must-haves for their immune system, for their life, for their physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Last thing, just like Colombo, there is something. We see that nurses and doctors are the first responders today with the fight for COVID. I hope our industry can be the second wave of responders. Mm-hmm. And we have launched with the World Wellness Weekend hashtag wellness for nurses, wellness for doctors, and we highly encourage all of those that will be participating in September 19 and 20, not just to participate and welcome the guests, but also to be the ones when social distancing is lifted, when it's safe to go outside, when it's safe to not be socially distant, but maybe physically distant, but socially very, very close by to each other. We need to be socially in proximity, but physically distant. And maybe this is when we can go to hospitals and clinics and we can show our support, not by necessarily massaging hands-on those people, but sharing with them wellness techniques, wellness disciplines, wellness workshops collectively that where they can feel replenished. This is how we can serve.
Thank you, Jean-Guy. And thank you, all of you, for being here this afternoon. Really a pleasure to hear all that you have to say and for your contribution to our community and your support, really, of all of the folks who are, all in this together. So thank you very much for being here today. Next week, our webinar is actually focused all on practitioners. And we'll have a panel of practitioners, and we will really be talking about how this impacts them and what they do during this sort of down period of time. So hope you will all join us. And again, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.